Hi, welcome to today's LinkedIn Live. I am really excited today to talk to David Obrand, who is the CEO since February of Salesloft. I know a little about Salesloft just from my work with other Atlanta tech companies, and really excited to hear more about them as a company and him as a leader. Just for a little background, Salesloft brought on David, who was instrumental in accelerating growth at Yammer as chief commercial officer, I believe, prior to its acquisition by Microsoft for $1.2 billion. And he was an early executive at Salesforce, part of the company's journey from 20 million ARR to 2 billion from 2002 to 2011. So thank you again, David, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Karen. I'm glad we're able to make it work this time.
Yes, second time's the charm, as you said.
Exactly.
So tip of the hat to Kyle Porter and his team for getting Salesloft to the point on the journey that you came in. But for everyone else who doesn't know Salesforce at all, could you tell us a bit about the company and in particular what makes you different from key industry players?
Yes, and you made the mistake that I am always concerned about making, which is Salesforce versus Salesloft.
Oh, geez.
Okay.
I am not ChatGPT now, we know.
Exactly.
Although maybe that mistake might be made there too. So,
yes.
All right, thank you.
No, don't be silly. So yes, kudos to both Kyle and Rob, the founders of the company. They had this crazy vision when they started the company to transform the profession of sales. And they iterated for quite some time to find the right approach, the right tech, the right thesis. And once they did, the company took off. And, not only did they have great timing, but one of the things that Kyle and Rob were almost over-rotated in their focus on to the company's advantage, especially going into COVID, was really on how to build a culture. A great organization that's deeply tethered to the mission, that's deeply tethered to each other. And I think as a result becomes very authentic. And what we've seen as a result of that is this company not only was able to sort of weather COVID, but this company more than doubled in COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't lose any of that cultural identity. So huge kudos to Kyle and Rob for the work they did creating this business. And then, consummating the marriage with Vista Equity Partners back in December of 2021. So we're now, a little over 800, as we call it, lofters around the world. And we're very excited. This is a year that we'll hit profitability, which, for us was a big milestone. Yeah. And we continue.
And for Vista, I'll say that.
And for Vista, wonderful partners.
Yeah.
We all hear about these Vista playbooks. They've been around for 20 plus years. They would be the fourth largest software company in the world if you took all of the Vista current assets and rolled them up into one. But, their focus on responsible growth really comes out of their playbooks. And we've been a huge benefactor of that the last, 18 months or so.
That's great. Can you talk a little bit about Salesloft's sort of major products? Or see, now I'm going to think about it every time I say it.
I know. See, I do. So I have to pay $20 every time I mess up on this.
That's a great idea.
I'm always happy to hire somebody that comes from there because then they start making the mistakes more often. So let's talk about the product. So, look, I think at the end of the day, Karen, the lifeblood of every company are the customers. I mean, that's it, right? It's the vital sustenance you need as a company to continue to evolve, is you need your customers. And what's crazy about the space of selling, and not just, for one role in an organization, but every role that throughout the day, their normal course of interaction is engaging with prospects and customers. It's the one area of business that we have not seen great tech for. So there's a lot of tech out there for sales and marketing and all that, but how we optimize the interactions across hundreds of people in our companies with our thousands of prospects and customers every day, there's never been good tech out there for that. This is what Salesloft does. We build software that helps you ensure that all of your customer-facing people throughout your organization can optimize every interaction they have across their entire book of business at any given point in time.
Yeah, terrific. So you've been in about 6 months or so, David. What have your first 6 months been like, and what are you looking forward to in the next 6 months?
So they've been great. I can't say enough about the culture of this company. The tech is fantastic, but the people are really what make this such a special place. So Kyle was wonderful in how he brought me into the business. Kyle's journey, which he tells better than anybody, but he spent 12 years building this business and had made a commitment to his wife before he started. Give me 10 years and then I'll give you 10 years. And so he said, look, I'm 12 years into a 10-year journey and I'm going to go build the largest tangerine empire in the world. And I need somebody else to come in and carry the business for the next chapter. So it was a really warm invitation from Kyle, which made it a lot easier because he was quite revered in the organization and all of that. My first 3 or 4 months was really a listening and learning tour. So we've got, as I said, 100 lofters all around the world, 120 of them in London, 60 or 70 of them in Guadalajara. And so I really wanted to go around and just hear from everybody what's working, what's not working, what are they focused on? Let's shape the priorities of the business. And then spending a lot of time with customers and analysts and prospects as well. So we spent the first 90 days doing that. That informed what we called our company charter, which is our 4 primary areas of focus that will carry all of us throughout both this year and next year. And right now it's just about execution. We launched Rhythm, which was a massive release, our largest release in the history of the company on June 21st. I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point.
Exactly. Yeah.
And now just bringing that new platform to all of our prospects and customers around the world. That's our focus for the next half of the year.
Well, what an exciting time to enter the business. So much potential in front of you. It's great. So the tech industry, like Salesloft, is constantly changing and evolving, and businesses are adapting. I really would like to hear more about Rhythm, which is your new generative AI. Oh, that's even better. Thank you. Which is your new generative AI product. Can you talk a little bit about the product? And as I understand, its goal is to revolutionize the sales role.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a phrase out there that you hear a lot called the signal to action engine.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so, we talk a lot about how tech is changing sales, but what we forget, Karen, is how much tech has changed the buyer experience as well. Mm. So 20 years ago, if you and I were leading an organization and went to go buy something, we would not have the breadth of information at our fingertips like we do today. And so as you think about modern technology for sellers, you have to think not just about how the sales journey has changed, but how the buyer journey has changed. Gartner will tell you that buyers can do 83% of their homework before they ever engage a seller, which is crazy. You lose first mover advantage and all of that. And this is why we see the emergence of all this intent data out there, because buyers can do all this homework, creates all this intent data. So what is Rhythm? What's a signal to action engine? Right. We talked about Salesloft being that platform that sellers live in all day long that guides them and informs them as to the next best action. What action to take, who to take it for, what materials to use in that, the context of how to deliver it, and maybe even some coaching. That's great. But with Rhythm now and AI, we can actually capture those buyer signals that are happening. This is an unknown need. This is something we didn't even know about. We didn't even think was possible a couple of years ago, to capture things that buyers are doing that we aren't aware of and have that through integration fed into Rhythm, scored through AI, and then contextualized to tell us, hey, your buyers are doing these things. Here are the next best actions you can do to serve them. That's the intent of it. And it does this globally. So prior to releasing Rhythm, we introduced localization and internationalization. We made sure our platform worked for every user in any of our 5,000 plus customers all around the world. And now, and we've had AI in the product for a long time, Karen, but now bringing in generative AI to actually help with the signal to action engine on one side, and then also to help remove all of this administrative burden that sellers have every day. Here's a crazy stat for you. There are 2,080 hours in a business year. So take out our vacations, our holidays, all of that. Sellers get at most about 30% of that time engaging with their prospects and customers. That's it. The rest is spent on administrative work, internal meetings, all of that. So where Gen AI and AI in general comes into play in platforms like Salesloft is it helps you in 2 key areas. One of which is it helps you massively reduce that administrative overhead, generates emails for you, generates follow-ups for you, gives them to you in multiple flavors so you can find your voice in it, cobble together and send it out. That's huge. And then the other is it captures and scores and weights all of these signals that you're not aware of, and it actually converts them into very discrete actions. So you know exactly what to do
Mm.
any given point in time. And for me, having grown up as a seller and a sales leader and all of that, one of the challenges I've always felt as an individual contributor and then as a leader is if you are really good at sales, you have a complex book of business. You have early
Yeah.
stage, you have late stage, you have existing customers that want to upsell. There's a lot to do. And it's overwhelming. At any given point in time, you have no idea. Should I be working on stuff for this week, this month, this quarter, this year?
Mm.
I have no idea. At any point in time, you just log into your Salesloft instance, you go to your rhythm focus zone, and it will tell you the most important actions to take right now across your entire book of business. It brings this great clarity to what's been
Yeah.
opaque for us for so long. So,
Yeah. So in addition to results, I'm imagining that also impacts employee engagement and satisfaction because they know they're doing the right things to make the impact that they want to have, the reason they're there.
yeah, we talk a lot about, at the end of the day, nobody loves to just go buy stuff in business. Like we all have real jobs. No one wants to stop doing our job to go buy new software or new hardware. That we do because we have a problem.
Mhm.
And so what sales really is it's about understanding and assessing, and ultimately, if you can, solving that problem.
Mm.
And for sellers, bringing clarity so you can focus on the things that are most important and being able to have a platform that serves the tools to you in the moment so
Yeah.
you can actually execute in the best way possible. Yes, not only does that help with employee engagement, employee outcomes, employee retention, employee satisfaction, it improves onboarding as well.
Mhm.
And ultimately, look, I think, there's sort of a recipe to recruit great talent and keep great talent. And
Mhm.
one of those things is giving them good, hard, challenging work. But the other is giving them customers that love your product. It just feels so much better when you come to work and your customers
Right.
are happy and they're getting value out of what you build and deliver to them. And being able to use Salesloft, this is what we see not only with our customers, between us and them, but between them and their customers. Is you just see a huge improvement in customer satisfaction because you're better able to solve their problems because you can harness the collective intelligence of your entire organization and feed it into this platform.
Yeah. Wow.
Very cool.
Well, I think we're in such an inflection point, right, in terms of software in general with the new AI capabilities. And I'm careful to say that because yes, people have been using AI for some time now. It's just this next iteration. We see so much.
It's
Yes.
purpose built for the things that we care about
Mhm.
the most. Whereas before, it's been out there for quite a while, but it's been hard to sort of harness in ways that are specific to some of the bigger challenges we have. And I think that's the big unlock that we have felt over the last, 6 or 9 months or so.
Yeah. Well, that sort of brings me to this thought about sort of what's next. What are you seeing in terms of in sort of the greater sales and AI landscape?
So, I think we're going to see a couple of things. We're going to see some consolidation in the space
Mhm.
right now. Um, given what we've seen with interest rates rising, given how difficult it is for companies that aren't on a path to profitability to raise in a climate like this. And look, it's just harder because I think we've all, in COVID, both buyers and sellers, we've all sort of atrophied some of our muscles a little bit. And so
Mhm.
performance is getting back to where it was, but it's not where it was previously. And so look, it's hard to raise money. Companies are going to start looking for opportunity to acquire or get
Mhm.
acquired
Sure.
to just sort of accelerate their pace of innovation or their ARR base. So I expect we'll see a lot of consolidation here. The other aspect of this is there are these weird inflection points. We saw it in, to the early 2000s with Salesforce and cloud. We get these like inflection points that just unlock new possibilities
Right.
we haven't had before. And I genuinely think this is where we are right now with the combination of, both cloud and AI coming together in ways that it's far more affordable than it was even 5 years ago, let alone 10
Mhm.
years ago. But we can now start solving problems. And I believe that the big thing that we're going to see solved in the next 5 years that has not been historically is if you think about any aspect of a business at scale, there's a very structured and regimented way to execute. So if you think about in R&D, for example, you go product specs, they go into engineering specs, they can built into sprints, and you manage the sprints in 2 to 6 week cycles. You have it in finance, you have it in marketing. The one area you haven't had it has been in sales. You hire great talent, you spend a bunch of money acquiring the talent and onboarding the talent and all of that. You give them training and tools, and then you just let them go into the wilderness to hit their quota. We now actually have technology that we can deploy to all of these, users within an organization that will actually bring consistency and repeatability to how we interact. And when you think about it, one of the largest expense items for any business is your sales and marketing expense. And yet it's always been pretty opaque. And so I think as we're coming out of COVID, the best companies in the world are going to be the ones that harness platforms like Salesloft to bring that consistency and repeatability as they start to scale up again in their customer facing employees. We've seen a lot of traction, and especially in the tech sector around it, but that's going to recover over the next 18 months. And we're going to see a lot of hiring. And as people start to hire back, the best companies will be the ones that have consistency and repeatability in how they engage with their prospects and customers and convert those interactions into revenue.
Yeah, terrific. Well, that brings me to my next question. I want to talk also a bit about your leadership style, sort of beyond the company. You talked about having come in and sort of done a listening tour for the first few months and sort of learning what's there. Say more about your leadership style, and also specifically, if you could talk about this idea of, comfort with ambiguity, which I think is one of the most underlooked competencies that are important in senior leadership. It's this ability to deal with the fact that things are always changing and they're a lot complex. We don't know the answers, and how you deal with that.
Sure. So we just came off twice a year. We bring ELT, which are my direct reports, and SLT, which are the top 25 VPs below my directs. We bring all of us together. We talked a lot about change. It's not just about being able to survive or persevere through it. It's actually being able to embrace it. You want to welcome change. Companies that are stagnant those are bad places to be. You actually, when you intellectually think about it, change is a very good thing. Now, how you manage that change, the order of operations of that change, and all of that's a very different formula to think about. But change is constant, and you have to embrace it. Oh, and I just lost my screen. There you are. And you really have to embrace it, and you have to be built as a culture for it. It can't be something that happens to you. It has to be something that you are driving that change, not being a victim of it. So when we're talking about leadership style, I know this is a very big theme for you across your podcasts and your interviews and all of that. I've been really blessed to have worked for some just fantastic, I think, twice in a generation type of CEOs growing up in my career. Working with Mark Benioff for 10 years was a wonderful experience that really grounded for me a leadership style in two areas. One of which is building a customer-centric business, truly customer-centric, not just saying it, but actually driving your decision-making framework through the lens of data and how it impacts your customers. That's a real thing. And you can build great companies that are not customer-centric. My leadership style is I am much better in customer-centric businesses. I just am. It's sort of my natural resting place. And I think a lot of that was formed through 10 years, at Salesforce. The other one is working with David Sachs from Yammer. And it was a really unique opportunity to go from, working at Salesforce to working with Yammer, because what I saw servant leadership in both, which was very cool. But what I saw with Salesforce was this really maniacal focus on the customer. And then when I went to Yammer, you had the same thing, but with a different product. And so it had this maniacal focus on the user. And they're two different things, right? Companies buy the product. The users are the ones that engage with it every day. And how you actually blend those two together to both serve the individual user through product and innovation and customer success and tooling and all of this. This is why we brought in a world-class chief customer officer, Sam Loveland, recently to drive that whole customer success area for us. But how you blend innovation in the product and innovation in how you engage and serve your customers, to me, that creates just sort of a magical moment for a company. Because if you have a great mission and everyone's tethered to it, and you can look at your progress through the lens of how your customers are engaging with your product and the value you're getting, it just removes a lot of confirmation bias and it makes decision making a lot easier.
Yeah.
I was blessed. Kyle hired a wonderful leadership team. And so I've been blessed, to be able to just slide in and engage with that team. We do think a lot about what we're building for the long term. We have a 5-year vision of where we want to go, but then we really focus on 2 years. And we do everything from 15-minute ELT stand-ups every morning where we talk about blockers, but it's all really gated through this lens of where do we want to be 2 years from now? What are the different paths to get there? What are the obstacles in the way and how do we overcome them? Yeah. And once we can define this, we know exactly where we're going. We know when we fork off the road, how to get back to it. And we know what measures we are going to hold ourselves accountable to making sure we're making the progress that we seek to.
Yeah. All in the service of keeping that team aligned, which is one of the hardest things to do when a company is growing as fast as Salesloft is.
And in COVID, like we forget, this business grew by more than doubled in COVID with an attitude that we should just find the best talent in the world, regardless of location. So now we don't have this opportunity to bring everybody back to work because we have 2/3 of this company lives in cities that don't have offices right now.
Right.
And so keeping that connective tissue through constant communication and collaboration is really hard. And your earlier point around change is if you have a lot of change going on at once and people are physically disconnected, a lot of times it's hard to understand how all of this change connects together.
Yeah.
It's sort of the order of operations of all of this. And so we do the daily ELT stand-ups, we do multi-hour weekly ops. We then do all hands once a month. We do an email that goes out to the all company once a month from me as well. So we have to continue to find ways to efficiently bring the team together to share how we're thinking about this, what our order of operations, and more importantly, to hear from those closest to our customers what's working and what's not.
Yeah. People need to understand the intent behind what they're doing, not just what they're supposed to be doing, and also the context, the reason that they're doing it, right? So
that's right. But in customer-centric orgs, you realize that your individual contributors are the ones that are closest to the customers. So this not just be a one-way communication mechanism. It's got to be bi-directional. We've got to, be able to set our agenda, set the execution priorities, have the team start to execute. But then as we get feedback, we've got to listen and we've got to iterate constantly. Or we'll find that if you wait for that 6-month meeting, it's too late. You miss the boat.
It's way too late in a company that's growing and changing as fast. Well, I have a last question that I want to ask you, David, that I tend to ask all my guests on this program, and that is, was there a moment in your career when you knew that you were going to be successful? And I think this in terms of a 2x2 matrix, and that you knew you were moving up and to the right, which is the tagline for my consulting business, because that's the spot on the 2x2 matrix where we always want to be. Yeah.
Oh man, it's a great question. I don't know. I think I have a pretty healthy degree of paranoia and about wherever I am, feeling like I feel very fortunate to be here. Yeah, look, I think there were a couple of them. And I actually always say, look, you have those great moments where you realize like, oh, I'm onto something pretty special. But then you have those really humbling moments as well. And I actually, the humbling ones, while so painful in the moment, are the best moments of learning. But yes, so I will say, look, early on at Salesforce, I was put on a team with a very challenging and sort of audacious goal for us at the time. And to somewhat our surprise, we actually achieved the goal. And it was a big breakthrough moment for the company. And that was one where I thought, okay, I actually think I could do something pretty neat in this profession of selling. I was in my early 30s by then, and I'd done it for a while, but that was my first real breakthrough where I thought, man, I think I could actually build a family and support my family and actually have a really good time in a profession I love. So that happened in 2004. And then, Yammer was a really interesting one. I think it always feels great when you do something big the first time, but being able to
Hmm.
again the second time makes you feel like, okay,
Exactly.
maybe it wasn't all luck, you know?
Yeah.
And again, but same sort of consistent things, great team, great product, great leader, great vision. And, I was able to just sort of find a moment in Yammer where we were able to make something very special happen. And at the time, Yammer was the fastest growing SaaS company out
Yeah.
there before the acquisition. So those were two that I thought, okay, this
It's
seems to
great.
be clicking in a way that maybe I actually can do this and shouldn't quit my day job and go back to rabbinical school, or I don't know, be a dive instructor or something. What about you? I mean,
All
can I?
those paths not taken.
Yeah,
It's a good question. Thank you for asking. I was an early employee at Compaq Computer, if you remember them,
of
which
course.
at the time was the fastest growing company in American history. And I'm sure, like Yammer, we had no idea that it was going to take off like that. And
Yeah,
so it was an amazing experience. And as you say, we had a great product market fit, no thanks to me. And so the ability to find something after that, after I left, where I could be successful in the way that I define it, which is around having an impact, and seeing that actually happened through my consulting business. So it was much more than that early success that I think most people might point to.
I suspect many people listening to this will not know the answer to my question for you. But do you remember the one compact product that you were most excited about when it came out? That you thought, oh my God, this is like a big game changer.
Other than the first one, I was there before we shipped any product. So
Okay.
that for me, the answer was seeing that first thing come off the end of the assembly line, and then over the course of the next 14 years, of course,
Yeah.
seeing others. It wasn't the desktop. I mean, we had a desktop because we had to have a desktop, having started in a sort of semi-portable business. But I don't know which one it is that you might choose. Which is it?
Oh, I don't know. When the portable computers, I mean, they were what, 35 pounds or something.
Yeah,
Uh,
20 something. Yeah.
yeah, they had the leather handle. When that
Yeah, it was
first
like
came out,
a giant sewing machine case
yeah,
for
like
people who remember sewing machine cases.
the
Yeah,
bottom would fall out. When
yeah.
that came out, I think I was a junior in college or something like that.
Hmm.
And this whole concept of, dude, what is that? And it's like,
Yeah,
it's a computer. Everyone's like, nah, come on. So, I mean, that you just didn't see anybody walking around a campus, albeit a
right.
very large box. But
Yeah,
that to me was like a very, very cool moment
it's a
when,
big moment.
yeah, you
I
left
got
the laptop with the weird dot matrix printers and you actually had this thing you could carry with you somewhere.
yeah, I got off a plane in Singapore and saw someone carrying one, having flown from Houston, and that's the moment I knew the company was going to be successful.
There you go.
Um, yeah,
There you go.
that's perfect. Great. Well,
Wonderful.
thanks for asking, and thanks for your time today. Really appreciate it. I learned a lot. I'm sure our listeners did as well. And I wish the best to you and your team.
Thank you, Karen. You as well. Look forward to talking again soon.
Great. Take care.
Bye bye.